record, and you can start. Thank you, Gabriel.
Jackie. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to coming out this afternoon and enjoy one of the presentations, one of the workshops that the compliance unit, which is one of the 4 units of the Department of Human Services, like to present regularly to the taxpayers. So, and the vendor population so that we stay in touch and that we stay current. The workshop today is Compliance 101, Honoring Obligations to Chicago Taxpayers. Without further ado, we're going to navigate high level over what some of the functions of the compliance unit are in regards to contract compliance, and also what tools or processes we use in order to meet those requirements. So what do? We review bidders and proposer compliance plans. We're going to detail with that. We monitor the NBE, WBE, DBE commitments, and the newly added BBE. We monitor, jointly with the user department, the equal employment opportunity, which are minority and female commitments made by the clients. We monitor the CRO, which is the Chicago Residence Ordinance, the local residency requirement, and then upon completion of the contract, we do the contract closeout. What sort of tools do we use? What sort of processes do we use in order to accomplish all of the above? We use a web-based system called Certification of Compliance System, thus the C2. That's in order to, that has two functions. One is certification, in order for the business to keep their certification current, apply for certification, do the annual change affidavits. That's this is part of one of the components of the system. The other one is the contract compliant, which is the one that is under my command. The other one is the certified payroll processing system. It's another web-based application called LCP Tracker. We conduct audits. We do desk audits, payment audits in order to ensure that everything is just as clear as it should be. We also conduct site visits, especially or mainly for the construction projects. So let's get started. As part of the packages that go out for the bidding universe, the most common schedule that you will find will be in a Schedule B, which is the MWD, meaning MWDB, affidavit of joint venture. It has to be completed to clearly state who the members are, what the percentages of participations are, and it will have to be submitted along with the joint venture agreement. The Schedule C. Mind you, the Schedule C's, there is a range of them. After the letter C, there is a hyphen, and normally is followed by a number. The number that follows it is assigned depending on the type of contract. Construction is just the plain C. Professional services is -1. There's a -3. There is for target market. There is for PBEs. There is for professional services. So depending on the type of contract that you are bidding, that's the type of contract that you're going to get the Schedule C's for. A Schedule D. Oh, let me go back. The Schedule C. What is the Schedule C? I am one of the subs or intended subs. The prime has reached out to me. The prime is also known as the contractor, the general contractor, the one who is in the process or intending to bid on the project. So he got the meeting and he gets all of the people he would like to have participate in the contract. Once all of the meetings have been realized and the sub of the prime has come to an agreement that this is the portion of the contract that I'm going to be doing, depending on the area of specialty that I hold as a certified firm, then I'm going to complete in a Schedule C. Regardless of the type of Schedule C, the format is similar. What am I going to be doing? Make sure that the scope of work is tight and related to the project and related to the area specialty that you are certified on. It will also state what your billing rates are. How are you going to be billing the prime and how are you going to get paid? Now, the Schedule D. Me, if I am the prime, I already got all of my Schedule Cs for all of the people that I intend to bring onto the project to work with me, certified and uncertified, labor, materials, and the like. Now it's time for me to do the Schedule D. The Schedule D is a compliance plan, and that will only list all of the M, if it's an MW program, the M and the Ws, if it's a D, the DBEs, so on and so forth. That is basically the project plan that the prime already worked out in his head as of how much or what percentage am I going to give to A, how much B, how much to C, and the total, the addition of all of the percentages of participation or intended percentage of participation should equal what the contract stated goals are, equal to or greater than that. The Schedule H. The Schedule H is a document or it's a schedule that is provided so that you can formulate or document all of your good faith effort that you did whenever it was not possible for you to basically list or find the vendors that you needed in order to get the scope of work completed. Once the bid is received, we do what we call a compliance plan review. It's a pre-award. What would a proper compliance plan submittal should have? One, it should have a compliance D, a Schedule D, sorry. What that it is the plan, as we just covered right here, is the listing of the vendors, certified vendors, MWs, these, whichever the goal of the contract is, the plan that you intend to put into place in order to carry out the scope of work and in order for you to meet the contract stated goals. Documentation of good faith efforts, meaning if you have or you're bidding on a project that is so specialized, that it's very difficult to find a trade that you can use. That's when that documentation of good faith efforts are useful. If you cannot find any of those, either good faith efforts, or you can either ask for a full or a partial waiver. You have to be very careful on the documentation that you submit, but you have to put the good faith efforts in order for the city to consider any possible partial waiver of the contract goals. So document. When the bid packages go out, there's a list of all of the sister agencies. You have to document the effort that you reach out to them, requesting documentation on the trades that you need, your efforts of communicating with all of the vendors and the responses that you got, denying that there were anybody available to meet a specific trade that you needed on the project. That's the only way that proof of partial waiver will work. Now, what is a good set of supporting documentation? For the Schedule C, let's go one by one. Compliance plan, that is the support to the Schedule D. So D is the main schedule, is right here. What is it supported by? The Schedule Cs. I'm going to show you here a sample of a Schedule C. Just give me one moment. First, project name specification is number identified. See here on the top. This is for a construction project. Project name, a specification, and it has to be just as it was published on the bidding documents. Make sure that the name of the one who is preparing the Schedule C, mind you, all the Schedule Cs, regardless of the type of Schedule C, has to be completed by the sub based upon the understanding after the negotiation is completed with the prime. The two is who the prime or who the main contractor is, who's going to be putting the bidding in the city of Chicago. Work and services clearly described. What we mean is, in this case, the undersigned is prepared to perform the following services. Make sure that on that section, you describe clearly what you are going to be doing, what services you will be providing that are related to the area of specialty that your firm is certified on. Dollar amount matches the Schedule D, meaning the total towards the middle of the page on your right-hand side, whatever it is that you are performing, it has a total, a subtotal, mind you, and we're going to cover this section in a little bit. Either you are at 100% participation, meaning dollar spent, dollar earned as a credit, or you are at 60%. Mind you, if you go up a little bit up towards the middle, towards the, I will say 1/4 of the way down, it says 100% of the MBE participation is credited for the use of the M&W manufacturer. 60% participation is credited for the use of the MW regular dealer or a supplier. So that is when these little boxes come into play as to how much you will be listing, because that is the amount that will be carried over into the lease schedule. Date of when the Schedule C was signed. Make sure that the Schedule C's, see here in the bottom, and then on the second page, same, that they are signed accordingly prior to the bid opening. We don't want a Schedule C that was signed later in the bid opening date. Certification letters. Every firm that you have scheduled or that you have listed here in your compliance plan or your Schedule D has to be certified. Okay? Do not list companies that are not certified because they will not get you any credit. That's what the Schedule D is for. The Schedule D is only for firms that are already certified, either MWD, depending on the type of contract we're bidding. What area of specialties or next code is their firm certified in? For example, if you're doing landscaping, you presumably will need a landscaping, somebody that can support your landscaping scope of work. You might need suppliers that will provide you the plans. You cannot bring a bricklayer, but you cannot bring a carpenter, because they will not be supporting at all any of the scope of work of the project. Okay. And that goes to the next bullet. Is this their certification, meaning the sub that you intend to bring in line with the work of services outlined on the Schedule C? Make sure that oftentimes we see that the prime fills out the Schedule C on behalf of the subs, and the sub just sign. That's totally unacceptable, because we can tell when it is not being properly completed, because the Schedule C does not match the certification letter. The certification letter, for those that are familiar with the certification letters, on the second page they have the next code and the area of specialty that each firm has been clearly reviewed and certified on. So make sure that the scope of work of what they are doing lines perfectly with the area of specialty that that firm is certified on. You can use them for whatever, but they will not be getting credit for the services that they will be rendering if they do not have the requirements that they need in the meaning or in the area of specialty. Something that we like to request is copies of the proposals or the quote that was submitted by the prime. Why? Because that will reinforce that the items that they are performing are in line with the scope of work, and they're also in line with the area of specialty. And that will also support the amount that they are being listed for on the Schedule C. If there's any disputes, we also like to see that. And we request to see communications or negotiation between the prime and blah, blah. We like to see all of that. Sometimes there is confirmation that I submitted the Schedule C. This is the email confirming that I have agreed to the terms and conditions. That means that will support the Schedule C, that there is a meeting of the minds. What are some of the common mistakes? And I'm going to be flipping between this page and this page. Incomplete or brief descriptions of work. Here, when you are trying to say what you are going to be doing, if you say laborers, okay, or labor and materials, what does that mean? 2-word descriptions are not acceptable. We need full detail as high overview that you can provide as to what you will be performing. Mentor project question and answer. That is normally on the second page. If we're looking at the construction Schedule C, it's different on the Schedule C1 and the other type of schedule. Those are in the first page to the bottom. It says here, right below the middle of the screen, the undersigned has entered into a formal written mentor project agreement. This is not to be confused with a subcontractor agreement. Subcontractor agreement does not have nothing to do with a mentor project. You being the mentor and the sub in the project is an agreement that is entered in order for the project to learn a new skill, but still within the same area of specialties, but a total new skill that they can benefit themselves, that they can benefit you. A mentor project, if that was to be the case, will have to be submitted and it has to be approved before anything can be marked or determined for the credit that is granted when a mentor project is approved. So make sure that that question is answered. Subcontracting levels. Right above the middle of the screen, there is the subcontracting levels. Basically, if you are a certified firm and you intend to do 100% of the firm of the work, that will be a 0 to be subcontracted out to a non-MOWBE subcontractor, and 0 will be of the dollar value that you are claiming will be subcontracted to an MOW contract. So this is an MW contract type of Schedule C. If you happen to be one that requires or needs to subcontract a part of your contract, then you will put the percentage of what that sub intends to let out to another firm, either certified or non-certified. That will be the percentage that will be listed in either one of those 2 lines. If for either one of those, if the percentage is different than 0, you will be required to provide the name of the vendor who you are contracting out, what will the scope of work be, and what amount do you intend to use. Why? Because at that point, if you were claiming 100%, let's say your work was going to be 100,000, but you are giving 10% to another firm, now you cannot claim a full 100% credit. Neither would you prime. So that will be only a 90,000 credit because you are giving 10% out to somebody else. Supplier participation. That part is clearly answered right there on the line that says the NDA status of the undersigned is confirmed by the attached State of Chicago Cook County certification. Towards the end of the line, it says 60% of participation is credited for the use for M or W regular dealer. That term is also explained on the special conditions that go with the bidding documents. So those are the common mistakes. We like to address those upfront. So Normally those items don't happen, and it makes the review a lot easier, and it prevents from a lot of corrections to be made. So this is a sample of the Schedule C, which is used for construction projects. Okay, now, one thing that we like to check or monitor is what we call the CUF, commercial useful function. What does that mean? Is that whoever gets granted or whoever completes in a Schedule C, that means I am in power of my own resources and of my own work. I perform the work, I manage my people, and I supervise my people. Okay? If one happens to be, and we're going to see what the field analysts do, when they're out and about and they see on the side are supposed to be the carpenters, but instead they are the landscapers, or they have the wrong t-shirt, or they are sharing resources, that becomes an issue because you are not meeting your commercial function. That means you have to perform the work that you intended to perform according to the Schedule C. You manage your resources, your people, your suppliers, and your tools on site. And you supervise your people that they are doing what they're supposed to do and when they're supposed to be doing, and at the site that they're supposed to be doing it at. That's what the commercial useful function is. You cannot be retained to do one thing, for example, Jose Landscapes, but who shows up is Maria's landscape. There's no relation. So that brings issues that we need to address upfront, that if you are granted a contract, when you sign in a Schedule C, that means you are fully completing commercial useful function. Now, going back to what area specialties are and what the next codes are. For the area specialty, normally if you have seen a certification letter, I believe is a 5 or 6-digit code followed by the actual description or high-level description of what the area specialty is. For the MWOD, that is self-performing, meaning if we say, for example, the target market for auditing, and I was granted the contract, I'll be doing all the work myself. I am certified MBE. I'll perform all the work myself. I will get 100% credit. That's what we call credit, is similar kind of like participation. If I am a manufacturer, that means I have to buy supplies, I have to provide the labor to create, and I have to have the machines to do the final product. I will be getting 100% credit for that making. If I am a supplier, MWD, that supplier will only get 60% because they only have a showroom to find the supply that they will be selling. They're not producing anything, they're not self-performing anything. Only 60% credit will be granted. Normally what I like to say is for every dollar that gets expended, only 60 cents go towards the credit. So you just have to be mindful that that 40% has to stay in the back of your mind, that you have to spend a full dollar in order to get the 60-cent credit. This is all in regards to counting participation. All of this is laid out also on the special conditions of the contract. Either the one that you are going to be bidding at, or once it's awarded, that is totally stated there. Once the contract is awarded, now what? What happens? Okay, that is when my unit, the compliance unit, starts working with the user department in order for us to start monitoring the contract. What do we monitor? What does that mean when we say monitor? We have so far 4 items or 4 areas that we like to monitor. One is the contract goals. That could be M&W, D, and now we have the MBIs with the BBIs. Depending on the type of contract, we monitor that. That is the highest, that's the biggest one. Then we have the EEO. Those are commitments that you do and that you complete when you are filling out the bid package. Nobody tells you what the percentages are, but there are some limits. You are the ones who commit the percentages that you are going to be executing and that you are going to be successful at. We monitor that. We also do the CRO part of the Chicago residency, that 50%, at least 50% of the workforce needs to reside in the city of Chicago. Excuse me. That's something that the system that we use, the LCP tracker, the prime is given access to when they, after all of the steps have been entered, the payrolls, that you can run a report and see if you are actually meeting your CRO requirement, which is a 50% on any City of Chicago local funded projects. Construction, all of this is related to the construction. Professional services do not have this sort of requirement. Only the MWD participation. The local residency, that is mainly the 7.5% or higher, depending on the type of contract or the requirement of the contract. All of these are monitoring that MW is for the C2 system. You have access because as soon as you report the payments, it will tell you what your participation attainment is at a given moment. The EEO, CRO of the local residency, that is through the second program, the LCP, that we spoke about at the beginning of the presentation. This is something we monitor from the inception, right after the contract is awarded, to the point when somebody says the contract has ended, it's time to do the closeout of the contract. Now, how do all of these happen? We have, through the use of here, the certification and compliance system. What, how, and when? The C2 is now the system of record for what? One, is for the payment reporting, plain and simple. The city pays the prime pays the sub. How do we do that? We track payments. We have to make sure we, as the officers of the owners of the contract, is that the payment that the city has made to the primes are frequently on a monthly basis coming through the C2 system. Once the payment is posted within the first 5 days, 7 days the latest, the prime is turning around and reporting the payments to the subs. Okay, now what happened after that? The funny thing is, after the payments are reported, the system automatically sends an email to the contact that has been assigned to each one, according to your own terms, to the prime and to the sub, say, hey, you need to go into the system and confirm a payment. Once you get that email, you log into the C2 system and you assess the payment that has been reported. And if it matches your records, that being the sub, not the prime, and the sub will confirm. If there is a mismatch, then it's always recommended that the sub reach out to the prime, and the name of the person who put the payment in is listed on the screen. So there is no need to create any issues. Just call the person and says, hey, you forgot the last payment, or you reported too much. That's where the conversation comes into play, and a good working relationship sometimes builds based upon that. So it's the online verification, and it has to be timely. The first, the track payments, and the online verification, all of that happens to happen within the first 25 days of the month. We're trying to keep everything current, because once it passes that, we start sending notifications, and we tend to notify the user department that the prime is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. The trending report, what that does is, at any given time, either the contract has to be extended, either because there is a vendor limit increase or it needs to be extended and time, then the go into the C2 system and check how the contract is trending. Meaning, if the goals were 26 and 6 for construction, but it's only on a 12 and a 2, then it raises the concern as to you are getting paid. Why aren't you reporting the payments to yourselves? So that's what the trending report does. It keeps us on our toes that we need to be following up with the prime for the prime to be reporting on a timely basis. All of this happened within that application called C2. Now, comes to the labor part. That is the payroll. The payroll is a very user-friendly that allows for the data to be entered for all of the payments that are made to all of the employees for not only the prime, but all the subs. That subs is for the LCP, all of the subs, certified or not, have to report the payments. There could be, most companies have their own payroll system that you can extract a file and upload that file directly into a CP tracker, and it is converted, and it shows really nice like a regular payroll system would do. Or it can be manually entered, whichever is your preference. It has all of the regulated tables for all trades, for all unions. It has all the prevailing wages as current. There's no falling behind, because it's something that we have to make sure that they're always on topic and they are on point. Once that is done, that's when we come and check the equal employment opportunity, the Chicago residency, and the local residence. Why? There's an item in here that says, as soon as you enter the address of an employee of yours into the system, the system has been programmed to check against the USPS mapping system to make sure that that address is valid. If it's valid, that will get you the credit for the CRO. If your address happens to be with one of the project areas that the contract requires for, that means you will be also completing the local residency. Every project has a local residency requirement. If it is up north, normally the contract will say the people have to be from the up north section. If it is in the west side, the same. Some of them have all across the city. So it depends on what the contract calls for. Okay. The system is so smart that if you are trying to enter 45 hours without paying the overtime, the system is going to tell you, I'm sorry, you can't. The requirement says 40 because you have not entered a rate for overtime and you pay that person the same as if he was, instead of being the 5 hours overtime, you're putting everything straight time. The system does not allow that. Okay, so it's a very smart system. We're trying to make sure that everything is covered, the OT is processed. It is a very complete system. What are the field analysts? I know I went a little crazy on the coloring, but I like to emphasize on this too. For compliance, we have two field analysts. And for certification, we have one, and I'm going to go through some of them, what they do. For compliance, they're basically our eyes and ears. They go and make sure that they do interviews. They should make sure that whoever is on site, if the firm that needs to be on site, make sure that if you're a landscaper, you are doing landscaping, you are not framing or putting windows up. You might, but this contract doesn't say that you're supposed to be doing that. It said that you are supposed to be putting the new bushes in, but you are up in the building putting the windows frames up. So that is some of the things that the compliance after analysis do. Certification. For certification, when there's a new application, the field analyst tends or has to go out and do what we call a site visit. We have a bunch of questions that they have to be asked, whether or not you're going to be a supplier, a trucking, knowledge about the industry, what you do, where's your office, all of that. That is what the field analyst does in regards to the certification side. Now, what does the site visits for compliance entails? We kind of put them in four bubbles. One is contract inspection reports, making sure that whoever is there is supposed to be there, that if you're supposed to be in our side for this project, for this contract member, but you are found in the south side, why are you doing there when the job is supposed to be up in the north side? There's employee interviews. That is, sometimes they would ask for the employee's driver license to make sure that the address is correct. They'll be asking for the wages and the employer. And that is something that is later matched around the office against the payroll reports. Then we do a cost review, a commercial useful function, making sure that you are using your own equipment, but the landscaper for GR landscaping cannot be using JD landscaping services. But that would not be what it would be the point. If you remember that when we're doing the CUP, is that you are performing, managing, and supervising with your own people, your own equipment, your own resources, your own supplies. So why are you using somebody else's equipment? The job board reviews. That means that all of the job boards are up and current on site, that they can be viewed. All of the posters that are required are visible, that they are not hanging only by the title and there's no actual poster. Okay, they're specific according to the type of contract, according to the type of findings, a specific poster needs to be up. That's what the field analysts do. They will show up and you will see them with a helmet and their the rest of the City of Chicago Department of Procurement Services. So those are the field analysts. They are our eyes or ears on the field. Okay. Contract was awarded. The contract left its term. Construction, the building looks beautiful. The medium looks gorgeous with all the flowers and new bushes. Oh, look at the airport. Oh, the new ramp looks awesome. Look at all the cars for it. Contract has ended. So it comes to us and said, okay, now it's time for a closeout. We need to close the contract out. For construction projects, normally the user department will issue what we call final quantities. They have to be agreed upon with the prime. They go back and forth. They figure everything out, and when everything is signed, it comes to us. Say, okay, we have agreed that what we have paid on this contract with all of the plus and the minuses is whatever. We compile all waivers, full, partials, everything that comes in between for everybody, certified and uncertified. And so the waiver from the prime, a waiver from every one of the subs, and everyone for the second tiers, as we call them. If you had a vendor listed on your compliance plan, mind you, the schedule, the compliance plan is the schedule D, but you did not utilize that vendor, that means that now you need to provide the justification. It could be a reasonable justification. It could be that somewhere down the line, the vendor withdrew from the project or it was bought out by somebody else and you have the letter, now produce the letter, and that vendor was replaced by somebody else. So all of that has to happen. At the same token, we run our own reports for the payroll summaries. Those are the payroll summaries that will take into account the EEO, the CRO, and the local residency. That is labor. What will happen with that? The CRO is 50%. Local residency is either 75% or higher, depending on the contract. And the EEO is the amount, the percentage that you committed to. All of that is assessed. If the goals were met, the contract goals, MWD are met, the final letter saying thank you is issued. We do all the compilation and it's issued. If the EEO, CRO, and local residency hours percentages are less than what the requirement is or what you committed to is, we issue what we call a preliminary. If a shortfall is identified or on either one of those areas, either contract city goals, MWD, or EEO, CRO, local residency. If everything goes fine, go directly to the final letters. If there is issues, as we call it, shortfalls, the request is sent to you for you to document your good faith efforts as to what happened. Then we review the good faith efforts as submitted if there's a preliminary issue. If not, we go directly to the final letter. We review the documents that you submit. Then final letter with the termination is issued, and an IOC. An IOC is what close out a contract, a construction contract. And that is issued as an inner office between our office and the user department saying, this contract, thank you for all the documentation that you submitted and for the client's efforts into this project. We have assessed all of the goals, all of the commitments. Everything has been either met or there's a shortfall in this amount. And that closes the contract out. Now, if there's any questions at this time, please submit them to Rodney. Otherwise, I would like to thank you for taking your time and coming on this afternoon and listening to this workshop. Jackie?
For those of you that have questions, go down to the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and you should see the Q&A panel. Click on the Q&A panel and then type your question out and press the enter key, and we will get your question. I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that in case you have a question. I want to thank Gabriel Rodriguez for imparting that great information to us. And I would like to also thank the participants for coming to today's workshop. Make sure that you are looking in the links that Rodney gave you for the description of the workshops, the next workshops that will be coming up. And we ask that you take a little time and go online. Rodney, can you send them the link for our survey? We're just trying to find out how you would like to proceed going forward after COVID-19 with our workshops, if you like virtual, if you like in person. What part of our outreach would you like to be virtual, and which parts would you like to be live and in person? So if you take a little time and fill out that survey, we greatly appreciate it. Gabriel, I don't see any questions right now, so I take it that everyone is good with your presentation that you have given. It's no question to that because you give great presentations. So I guess I will say thank you. Stay safe, stay well, wash your hands, social distance, wear your mask, and get vaccinated so that we can all be in one place at one time and get back to how we used to do things in the Department of Procurement Services. Thank you so much for taking your time to be with us, and we will talk with you soon. Have a great day.
Thank you.